Hi, I'm Rohan Babu. My student ID is 6258803. I am here to present my paper on the subject Engineering Research Methods. My topic is Benefit Realization Management and Project Success Factors. About the topic, what are benefits? Benefits in terms of project management are the good impacts that a project has on its stakeholders. The stakeholders are the people who are affected by the project. So the advantages and gains delivered by a project, it can be measurable in some cases, and in other cases they are intangible or abstract. It can be better explained with an example. Suppose we take the transportation system in Australia as a project. The benefit it gives us is that we are able to reach at our destinations at an affordable price safely. So basically that is the benefit that we gain from a project. Moving on, obviously the management of these benefits is called benefit realization management. It is also called benefit management, as I told earlier. It is a methodology followed so that these values are finally obtained by the user, that is end user. It is benefits can't be simply borne out or made up in the end. It has to be inculcated in the project right from the beginning, that is from the identification phase and defining phase. Defining phase here means defining the scope of the project, and then while planning, tracking, that is if we are not keeping in track if that the benefits are not realized along the management of the project, there are chances that they may not be realized in the manner intended which they were to. And the last point says benefit realization management is this process to link strategy planning with execution. That is, what is actually planned and what is actually happening can be linked through benefit realization management. And also about the prioritized objectives that I have mentioned here, means we may have many objectives for a project, but it's important to prioritize some of them so that at least some of them are achievable at the end. Moving on, project success factors. We know about the iron triangle. It is also called the triple constraint, made up by time, cost, and scope. Quality is what plays in between these three factors. So all these factors are interdependent and one cannot exist without the other. So this was the earliest and primitive success criteria used for project success. Now recent trend has seen a change in project success criteria towards from iron triangle towards stakeholder perception. That is what just I mentioned earlier about the perceptions of people or the degree to which the benefits value is obtained or achieved to the people. So on researching on this topic and reading and reviewing many literature, I came up with a research question, that is, are the benefits which I have already mentioned earlier utilized to their full potential for major construction projects which were considered failure in accordance with iron triangle? So I think this also can be explained with a typical example. Just take the example of Opera House in Sydney. We see that the statistics says that it was an utter failure because it took 10 years longer and almost 15 times the estimated budget. But we know that it was not a failure according to the perceptions of the stakeholders, that is the tourists, the public in Australia, and still it exists as an engineering marvel here in Australia and as an icon for Sydney. So whatever bad things or the miscalculations which occurred with the project, constrained with the time, cost, and quality, are now forgotten, and only its benefits are now remembered for all time. So I think this can easily explain my question. And the reason why I chose construction projects are that construction projects make up the large part contribution to a country's economy or GDP because of its size of employability, size of employability sorry size of employability and its other factors, and about two approaches which we adopt for in this process for evaluation is micro and macro. As the name suggests, micro is smaller and macro is bigger. We know in construction projects we have mainly two phases, that one is the planning phase and the other is the execution phase. In planning phase, the micro phase includes just the construction phase. So but the macro phase includes both the construction and the planning phase. We see that stakeholders or the public evaluate a project based on both these phases and thus the macro phase, while the constructors or the developers, contractors, they all just are bothered with the micro phase, that is just a construction, whether they have completed the construction within the time, within the set budget, or according to the given standards. And an example for this can be given for further clarification, that is, just think macro view as the way we observe a full forest, and the micro view is like just viewing the few trees in it. So the broader picture is always the best in all cases, so hopefully macro is the approach that we have used here also. And about the stakeholders' perception for success, I think that also can be explained with an example. Suppose because perceptions by different stakeholders can always be different, because the benefits can be realized for them in different manner. Just consider the example of a shopping complex. The shopkeepers or traders inside the shopping complex will always be welcoming and be happy that such a complex is open, but they are the primary stakeholders. The secondary stakeholders are those shopkeepers who operate in and around or in the region of the shopping complex. So they will definitely be not happy with the opening of the shopping complex, as they would have lost most of their trade because of this single business venture. So that's why it is said that it can be success for some and failure for others. So it's not easily as what we say, this perception, because it can vary from people to people, conditions and other criteria. And for this approach or understanding this phenomena, I have reviewed two designs from different papers, and I have combined both of them and made a single design for this. These two should run in parallel so that the continuity can be obtained. First is the identification of stakeholders. That is I've considered 4 construction projects: the Opera House, the Channel, Dubai Metro, and one other major project. The stakeholders are identified and they should be grouped and ranked accordingly, so that stakeholders at various levels get a good part in expressing their opinion, and we get a broader picture of the perspective. And stratified random sampling method is used to sample them up, so that everybody has an equal mixture is made up. Parallelly, appropriate literature is selected, review associated is selected, and a questionnaire is developed. Finally, a semi-structured interview can be done, and the responses can be marked in Likert scale, so that comparison of different answers can be done properly. Also, the reliability criteria should be employed, so that doubling of values are also neglected. And finally, the interview data can be analyzed for final results. So I think this design can be of good use and can provide the appropriate result and give the good inference that I expect. Thank you.